Hi everyone, Lisa here. Today we're going to go over the top habit books. So I've read a bunch of books and I've definitely been striving to be more efficient, more productive, to do more with less time, and just to make sure I'm making it through my to-do list and working towards my goals, because this last year and probably the year before, I wasn't. And I'm not getting all the things accomplished that I would like to. And no, it's not because of COVID. It's really just because of me. And so I think that it's a habit issue. Now, could it be a goal setting issue? Possibly, but I think my day-to-day actions are not supporting the goals that I want to achieve. So that's why I have been reading a ton of books on that. It's why I talk about it all the time during the workbooks that we do for the Cozy Escape VIP. And that's why we're talking about it today. So I'm going to give you a quick recap of all the books. I'm going to try to share my screen. Hopefully that works for you. And also, let's see, I think I can overlay myself on top of here. Maybe. I think I can add myself. Oh, there I am. I did add myself. Okay, so I'm a little over to the side. There we go. So I'm going to be down at the bottom. Hopefully I don't cover up too much of the words. I think I can make these slides bigger. So let's see if that works. I think that works. Hopefully you can see all the slides and me at the same time. I'm not going to know till this recording is done, but if you would like these slides, and I hope that you do, you can get all of these slides in Patreon if you are in the Cozy Escape VIP level. They're 100% worth it. I promise. I packed a lot of great information into here. But basically, I took all of those books that I read and I ranked them into books that are based on your personality, which to me is amazing. Like, I am all about customization. I don't think everybody is the same. I think, what works for one person doesn't work for another. And that's because we're different people, right? And it's just like how people have different blood types or different races, and we're all born in different places. Like, these are things that all shape us into who we are. And because of that, we shouldn't just cookie cutter apply one thing to everybody. And these 6 books, I think, did a really good job of that. Now, the ones at the top, It's My Way or the Highway, was very much like, this is what worked for me, so therefore it will work for you. You just do it. And so I think 2 things. One, I still get value from these types of books, but I think you should look at them more as a list of suggestions versus like, I must follow this to the letter. And then the ones at the bottom were just full of nothingness. I even read them twice just to be fair, because, I listened to them and I was like, well, maybe I'll get more if I read them. Maybe, because I listen to audiobooks at 3.5 speed. And yeah, I think they're totally a waste of your time. So let's go through those. I'm going to break each of these down and also tell you what I'm taking away from this just for my personality. And hopefully if you're a little bit like me, that might resonate and you might get some value from that. So the number one, this was a huge light bulb that went off when I read the 4 Tendencies. So Gretchen Rubin has this quiz. There's 10 questions. I can't believe I've never heard of this. And anyways, so it's basically about managing yourself and others based on those 4 tendencies. So I think it's kind of focus towards corporations. Like, as soon as you come out with one of these quizzes, corporations are like, how can we implement this into our company and make our employees more efficient? So it's a little bit of that, but these are the 4 different areas that I just put the circles up here. I am a rebel. Now, what rebel means is that I don't adhere to external goals or internal ones. I just do whatever I feel like. However, the nice thing is if I call myself something like through an identity, like I'm a superhero, or, then I'll run around saving people all around town. But if I do something more realistic, like if I say I'm a blogger, I will definitely put up blog posts, and not because it's a deadline or I need structure, but just because that's who I am to the core and that's why I'm going to do it. So for me, that was my biggest takeaway, was making sure that I give myself labels that are associated with the actions that I would like to take. So I definitely do not think this is worth reading. I think you could just watch her YouTube videos or other videos on the 4 tendencies. There are some other people who made them, and they're actually quite good, and you could get the same benefits from that. Atomic Habits, Everyone's talking about this. This is basically habit stacking, where if you do one thing, just add on the second habit that you would like to do. So if you brush your teeth every day, which hopefully you do, then right afterwards, and you want to do more push-ups because you want to be stronger, then do one push-up. And, if you always have morning coffee, then make sure to read a book while you're drinking your coffee, and that'll help you to get more chapters read or more books in for the year. So that's basically what he's saying with habit stacking. Now, with bad habits, he has a new philosophy where you kind of put a pause in between there, right? Like, so I love cupcakes and ice cream and brownies, and like the list goes on and on and on, right? But I am trying to reduce my sugar intake because, well, it's bad for you. So he suggests putting a pause in there. Like, before I want a cookie, maybe, or a cupcake, I should, run around the block, or I should do some other activity that forces me to put a pause in before I enact that bad habit. And usually something on the positive side, right? Like exercising. The other thing is the Goldilocks sort of principle. I really like this because sometimes, I used to read Jim Collins, and I loved him. He's an amazing speaker. And he always talked about putting BHAGs in. And I really think this is for corporations, right? Big, hairy, audacious goals. Something like so crazy, like you're never going to accomplish it. You don't think you can. But if you set it, like, in his world, somehow it will just magically happen, right? So inevitably what happens is it doesn't magically happen. So every month I'm like, I'm going to write an entire novel in the month, right? That's my BHAG. But the month comes and goes. I didn't write the novel. I feel awful about myself. And so I'm like, screw it. I'm not even going to bother trying, right? And I just totally quit. And this quitting process ends up happening like the middle of the month because I can just see the writing on the wall. Like, I'm not going to make it. There's just not enough time. So this is like saying, set a minimum, set a target, and then set a stretch goal. So then you have some more areas to wiggle around in and still feel successful. He also suggests doing reflection. So everyone does a year-end review. Any planner that you get, I shouldn't say any, most of them have a weekend review, a month-end review. And so that's just all he's saying. I definitely think this book is worth reading. I think he presents it very well and is very convincing, and, it's 100% worth your time. The next book, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, I would definitely only read the first part, if anything. The second part and the third part are really him just trying to sell his services to corporate America. They don't apply to unless you're like CEO or in charge of organizational development and learning at your facility. But it's basically the exact same thing as Atomic Habits. It maybe just says it a little differently. And again, my biggest takeaway is that delay before eating sugar. The fourth book is The 12-Week Year. Now, the 12-Week Year, I really like this. So the 12-Week Year is also pretty much the same exact thing as the 90-Day Year by Todd Herman, in my opinion. And Todd Herman's program is $2,000 or $3,000 or something crazy like that. And you could, for the bargain price of, I think this book is $9.99, get the exact same advice as the ones that's in there. It just says, everything happens at year end. And the reason things happen at year end is because people are like, I need to get my goal in for the year. I need to do more. And so this is just saying, why don't you go ahead and create 4 false year ends for yourself, right? So make it every quarter, and then you can get a ton of stuff done every 12 weeks, right? So 12 weeks is usually enough time to get some sort of project done. So it's the exact same thing. I would say, yes, it's worth reading. I obviously loved it. I put it all into the October planner. I'll show you exactly what I did. And I really like the concept of the 1 month year to make like smaller goals and like just the natural flow of the calendar, right? The 1st through the 30th or the 31st. It's way easier to follow. The 12-week year has like, I have a typo, has like some artificial, like I'd have to like actually count out the 12 weeks because, some weeks are shorter or longer, especially when you think about February. So, I just don't want to do that much thinking. So there were 10 pages in the October 2021. And again, this is in the VIP tier. It's there and waiting for you. Once you join VIP, you get access to all the current, the future, and like all of the past materials that we put out. But I'll show you exactly what was in there. I broke this down into 7 different steps. And so I did some examples of my own. I gave some other like reading examples. This is before I even thought like I'm going to read all these habit books. But you list out all of your 2021 goals and then circle like your top priorities, right? Because you can only have one for that 12 weeks. And then over here, I listed out all the things that were possibly roadblocks, just, brainstorming. And then over on the right, I left space for you to do that as well. And then again, another example of, how I would plan out 12 weeks and then space for you to do that as well. So these are 10 pages that help you with the 12-week approach if this is something that you're really excited about. And again, that's all inside VIP, as well as all of these slides. All right, so the fifth book is 168 Weeks by Laura Vanderkam. Same thing. I love this book so much in the concept. We actually did the best month ever, which is a challenge that we did back in September in the VIP group, and I'll show you that in a minute. But this basically, the whole gist of the book is like something that we all know. We're spending way too much time on Netflix and social media and not enough time on work. And the amount of time we spend on work, we're like totally like screwing up the estimates on how long things will take. So her thing is do an audit of the whole week, which we did in the best month ever challenge. And also do your dream job of your top 100. So she adds this extra component where she's like, well, maybe the reason that you're like spending so much time on Netflix is because you hate your job, right? You're like miserable. So why don't you try to figure out something to do? I don't think this is worth reading. I think you could just do the weekly audit. Honestly, I think you could just take my best month ever challenge inside the VIP group, and that would be more useful. The thing is, the whole week is a long time. Even though it doesn't sound like it, I think a better thing to do is just to optimize your 24-hour periods instead of like an entire 168 weeks. But that's kind of what's going on. So, I have another typo. What is wrong? All right. So over here, same thing. If this is what's inside of the VIP group. I just wanted to show all of this to you. But you're going to get week 1 is the timesheet audit template. So you can make a copy for yourself and do that as well. You'll get a recap of my weekly audit, as well as a second video recap of like, I did it twice, right? Because I was like, okay, I'm going to take all the information I learned from the first week and try to make the second week even better, which was a fail. But I like walk you through that, as well as a final recap and like all my takeaways from that. So that is waiting for you inside the Patreon group. And that's not really, it has multiple downloads. So all you would do is click the VIP. Once you join the VIP tier, everything is hashtagged by VIP, and then just go back to the older September posts. Okay. Book number 6. This is the last one that's based on your personality, and this is The Power of Focus. Now, this has 3 authors. The main reason I got this is because it's written by Jack Canfield, who is the guy who wrote the Chicken Soup for the Soul, and this has 10 strategies, right? So it's basically a list on how to focus, and it's really all about like creating habits and then like setting up a positive like support system for those habits. I definitely think it's worth reading. I like the anecdotes. I like the stories. They're more like testimonials of how these worked for other people. But my biggest takeaway from this wasn't really the 10 strategies as much as it was going through the criteria checklist for goals to make sure that your goals are like good goals. Like sometimes you pick bad goals, and not like bad goals. Sometimes you just word them incorrectly, right? Like I would like to be healthy. That's just too vague, right? But it's also, he doesn't do that cheesy SMART goal, which I absolutely detest. This was like a much better, better articulated list of criteria. All right, so now we're going to move into It's My Way or the Highway books. Now, Brendon Burchard is amazing and wonderful. He's a great speaker. He throws great conferences. He has a monthly membership to help you make money. The only thing I would say as a caveat is I believe, and I don't know if this is true, but I bet if you looked at his Clifton Strengths, his number 1 is significance, because he's always talking about you need to leave a legacy. I don't think you need to leave a legacy. I think that's really intimidating and overwhelming to be like, everything I do has to like emanate out to thousands of people, as well as he goes so far as to say you should always be teaching other people stuff. Maybe you don't enjoy teaching other people. Maybe you don't enjoy being on YouTube like I do. Maybe you hate doing podcasts, right? So why should you be miserable because he said you have to do that, right? So that's why I feel like this definitely falls into the My Way or the Highway type of books. But maybe it's worth reading if you're like, I really want structure and I want someone to tell me exactly what to do. Also, Also, he has a daily planner that goes along with all of these high performance habits. But I will say, I find it overwhelming just because I also find power sheets overwhelming because in the beginning, it has like 12 different areas you should focus on, right? Like you should be a 10 in your finances and your health and your nutrition and your wellness and your physical activities and your relationships with your friends, and your career and like all of these areas. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm failing at life. Like I cannot possibly be a 10 in all of these areas at all the same time. So anyways, I think it's good to think about those different areas, but for sure, I think, trying to do all of those all the time is a lot. But my biggest takeaway from this is that it is good to measure your progress in like whatever you want to do or a habit, and then also get feedback from others. The second My Way or the Highway book is The Habit Blueprint by Patrik, Edblad. But basically it has 15 steps in it. The first one is to pick a habit, and then the 14 steps are really to support it. This is kind of like a machismo, like dorky, gimmicky way. Like you need to declare to the whole world what your goal is. And then that way, if you fail, you're embarrassed and you feel like a loser. And again, I think that works well for people who are highly competitive or worried about what other people think. As a rebel, and just as someone who is, I don't know, I just me, I don't care what anybody thinks, ever. And so I feel like this kind of might work for men more, than it does for women. So, for example, like I would really like for Ben and I to go to yoga class. And he's like, I don't want to go to yoga until I'm in better shape so I don't look stupid. And I'm like, who cares? It's a class. So for 6.5 years now that I've been dating Ben, he has not gone with me to a yoga class because he's still not in shape enough, he says, to not look stupid or whatever in class, right? Whereas like, I don't care. So, but maybe this would work for him, right? Because he's so uber focused on what other people think. Also, they have this cheesy thing where he's like, you should make a commitment contract for your new habit where you put in writing that you're going to give somebody you hate $1,000 or something like that, or donate your car to them if you fail at achieving whatever your goal is. And again, would that work? I think that's dumb, right? Like, but that's just my opinion. However, it might work for you if you really like it. So my only takeaway was the same thing as before. I think weekly review sessions are helpful. The third one is by Jen Sincero. She's the one that writes all those "you are a badass at everything" kind of books. And honestly, they did not resonate with me ever. But since she was writing one on habits, I was like, well, let me check it out. However, it was really touchy-feely, very Freudian about your second self, and like, you know me, I do a double eye roll at anything ethereal or anything like that goes anywhere near that. So it's all about affirmations and meditating. And so if you are somebody who that works for, definitely read this. It's basically just a 21-day challenge. And so in the 21-day challenge, it's 21 suggestions that she has for you to do, kind of like the book before where there are 15 steps, right? You just go through each of those ones. And anyways, I couldn't get anything out of it because it all came back to like her first book, like being brave and being more confident. And so, I mean, the only thing I took away from it is maybe having a better awareness of the universe and like keeping my thoughts positive and expecting good things to happen. I think that's always a good message. Candace Cameron Bure, my favorite star on the Hallmark Channel by far. I like read all of her books even. And if you remember her from the 80s, she was like a little chubby in the TV show. And so all of a sudden now she's like super fit. She's incredibly active and really strong and just always working out, right? And so she said her biggest change was having a better relationship with God. I don't really know how that works, but maybe that's just being more in tune with the universe. She was like, being more godly, which was really important to her to be religious, means being in shape. So, maybe if that's something that works for you and being in touch with the universe or God, this might be a good book for you. Now, these were the books that were full of nothingness. However, maybe there is something to take away from this. And I just want to explain why I just didn't find any like value from this. So this one, because I loved her book on the 4 tendencies so much, I like immediately, I didn't even like check to see what it was about. I just bought Better Than Before. So Better Than Before, was just like her talking about being perfect, right? Gretchen Rubin has no problems with everything. Her family is perfect. Her finances is perfect. Her career is perfect. Her sleep is perfect. Her weight, like there's nothing wrong with her. She basically just spends the whole book talking about how great she is. So if you would like to read that, you could do that. That's all I got from this book. The next one was Daniel Pink's Drive. This one I think was really popular back when it first came out, but it kind of had me at the beginning. I was like, okay, I totally get this. This guy sounds great. He was talking about how the carrot and stick doesn't work, right? Which is just the principle that you reward people for doing something you want, or you punish them when they do something wrong, right? So he was like, this is old. We need like a new philosophy where you have extrinsic motivation, you have intrinsic motivation. And I was like, that sounds good, right? Like I thought that was based on like people who are extroverts and people who are introverts, right? But then he lost me. He just started talking about kids. And then he talked about how to be a better parent. And then he talked about how the school system is rigged against children. And I was like, what am I reading? I don't know. I don't care about any of this. I was reading this to see how I could be better. I'm not the superintendent for a school. So if you're a superintendent for a school and you want to be told that you're doing things wrong and how you could do them better, then this might be a good book for you. So again, this is only for people who are in charge of children, in my opinion. The next book, The 5 a.m. Club. How great does this sound, right? So everyone's like, the early bird gets the worm. Everyone's trying to wake up earlier because they think they can get more done. I read this and I listened to it. I still have no idea what it was about. It was just talking about nothing for like hours and hours. And like, I am just sad that I had wasted money on both the Audible credit and I bought the book because I was like, well, maybe I should read it because I didn't get anything from it. It was terrible. I can't say any, there was like nothing to take away from this except do not buy it. All right, the fourth book, The Willpower Instinct by Kelly McGonigal. It did make, so this was like, she had me at first when she was like, you should exercise your willpower to strengthen it, right? Like action creates more action. You know, like I like working out at the gym. The more I work out, the stronger my muscles get. And then all of a sudden she flipped it and she was like, actually, willpower is a finite, resource. And if you use it too much, you're going to deplete it. So I was like, okay, which is it? Is it use it or is it not use it? Because it's this precious resource. So basically she was saying to meditate, to get more willpower, and then, using the principle of like gambling addiction. So gamblers get like a dopamine hit when they gamble. And so she's saying you should do the same thing when you are doing whatever your habit is or your discipline or, not eating cupcakes, and you should reward yourself with something to give yourself that dopamine hit. But the thing is that we know about gambling is that every time people gamble, they need more of that in order to feel that reward, right? So if you gamble 5,000, it's like very like exciting, but the next time it's kind of like whatever, you need to gamble 10,000 and then that's exciting. And then the next time you need to gamble 20,000, right? So there was really nothing in here that I could take away except that she really just didn't know what she was talking about. Or he, Kelly, I don't know if it's a guy or girl. The next one is The Achievement Habit, Bernard Roth. This was just basically a tough love book on like, you suck and you're the reason you're a failure. So if you like that kind of stuff, this might be the book for you. I don't know that then they had this weird message that said you should make real friends, not acquaintances, which, there's nothing wrong with that. But I was like, how does this relate back to achieving, like things in life, my goals, and like making this a habit? So I don't know. Again, this might have been, I'm just going to say this might be a gender thing where this could just be like a machismo thing, like if you really like getting a smackdown on how awful you are, maybe this could be it. But, the main takeaway is just go out and do stuff. Just don't think about it, which, again, Nike already coined that phrase. So that was my thought on that book. All right. So we are at the end of all the habit books, and trust me, there are a million more. I just tried to pick the ones that were really popular because I had FOMO. I was like, maybe there's some secret in there that I'm not like doing. Again, like I said, so how am I going to implement these new habits? I'm going to implement the 30-day year. And so that's going to be inside one of the future 2021 goal setting workbooks, possibly the December one. I don't know if you want to join. But I think like monthly planning is a good time frame. It's a month. You can do one thing or one habit. You have 30 days. And I'm not saying it's for life, but it could like just help you to get that extra step so you feel like a small win. And then maybe the next month you just do it again, or you move on to a new habit. But that will be presented again in slides, that 30-day year, because we talked about the best month ever. I think we could do the 30-day year. I love doing these things. I don't know if anyone knows this. I'm like a productivity nerd. I love talking about efficiency and like just doing more in less time and like studying it. I don't know that I'm an expert at it. I'm trying to get there. And I'm definitely like open to sharing everything that I learned along the way. I could talk about this forever, but this will be really great for basically people who are more like me, like rebels, where traditional goal setting doesn't work for you. It's really great for introverts. I don't believe in sharing your goals. Like pretty much all the men were like, you must share it with everybody. There actually have been studies that sharing your goal deters you and lowers your chances of succeeding versus just keeping it to yourself. So this is for you if you're like me and you're like, if you saw my plan with me's, you'll notice that the like old ones I used to do on Pretty Fabulous, I really just switched to just talking about what I did for the month instead of what I was planning. I very rarely have TBR videos because I don't know. I really like to I don't want to set myself up for failure. I like to just tell you what I did after I'm done, and just kind of keep it all to myself. So this would be good for you as well if that's your philosophy. And monotasking, like I was so into multitasking in the 90s. I remember I so wanted to go to this university where you could just study one subject at a time for like 6 weeks, and then you'd finish the course, take a test, and then move on to the next one. And I remember my guidance counselor in high school being like, you'll never be able to do that in life. You have to multitask all the time, which is like the worst advice ever. However, it was the 90s, and that's what everyone was saying, and everyone was doing. They thought that was like better. You'd see a picture of somebody like eating their lunch, talking on the phone, and typing on their computer all at the same time. And this was like supposedly the awesomest thing ever. So anyways, that is 100%. If you're all about monotasking and having laser focus, then this is definitely something you're going to be excited about, the 30-day year. And planners. I love planners. I like structure. I like guidelines. I know that sounds silly because I'm a rebel, but I need somewhere to start from. And I think just having green, open pasture is a little bit too much freedom for me. I need at least some sort of framework to work off of. So anyways, a sneak peek at the January 2022 VIP workbook. Remember I said that was over 100 pages. So inside of there, we're going to talk about the wish list method. Now, when I did the year-end planning the annual planning for 2021, I call this the wish list method. You can get that for free still. That's over at programs.prettyfabulousdesigns.com. Just go to the freebie section. You can get that whole thing over there. But for 2022, we're going to do the Lisa method. I know, why not? So the Lisa method is listing out all of your goals and then just picking one with using the wish list method. So the second step, the I, is identifying your top goal, right? Whether that is the 30-day month or the 30-day year that we're going to do, or it is just one thing that you want to do for the whole year. So like in the past, in 2019, I believe it was, I wanted to work out every day. That was my only goal. And so I worked out every single day. And that is now a new habit that I have for life. 2020, I wanted to, I wanted to read every day. And so this year, I mean, I did fail in 2020, but I tried it again in 2021. I didn't make a new goal. I wanted to just read every day. And so now I've read almost 300 books for the year. So, definitely just having one thing has been much better for me. And the reason I think I failed for 2020, and again, it wasn't because of COVID, it's because I was so cocky from like having done a great job of working out every day. I was like, you know what, why don't I try 2 goals? And so I said, I'm going to write every day and I'm going to read every day. it was too many things to do in one, like, I know it's two things were one too many. So I think, if you can just pick one, you're going to be much more successful. The S is for scheduling it. I think you do need to change your schedule. You need to plan for it. That's why I said if you love planners and you like structure, then this is the method for you. And then keeping everything secret. And last for the A is active inspiration. So, there was a lot of talk about motivation in these books, and motivation really comes from doing something, right? You always, like when you talk to people and they talk about losing weight, this is the biggest one. Women always love to talk, and men too, about how thin they used to be, right? So I think, having that past success helps you to get motivated to do something else. Whatever that is, whether it's weight loss, writing a book, reading a book, or, starting a new hobby. And axing stuff. So I do believe, and I think this is my biggest problem, is I just keep adding and adding stuff. And corporate America does this all the time. And maybe that's where I'm used to it from. And I don't get rid of anything. I'm like, you know what? I have already planned out a 90-hour week of work, but let me add on 50 more things, hours worth of stuff. And I'm not going to get rid of anything else. I'm just going to try to make it happen, right? So we'll talk about doing that as well. So anyways, we'll do a deep dive into that. I'll have a bunch of worksheets inside of there, but that will be the 2022 January planner. And we always meet for VIP the first week of every month. So I'll also be sharing my daily productivity habit. And I've been using this since college. It 100% definitely works. I've seen other people talking about this, so I will also be sharing that as well. All right, I know that was a lot. So remember, if you want all of these slides, you can get them over at the VIP tier, and I hope this gave you some ideas or sparked some new books that you want to add to your TBR list. And I've been talking for a long, long time, so I will see all of you later. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And that's it. Bye.